They live in some of the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, and they could hold the key to breakthroughs in medicine and even agriculture. Researchers in Saudi Arabia have created the largest open source catalog of sequenced DNA from various forms of marine life. And the team found that species that dwell far below the surface could hold the most potential. Interesting. Dan Riskin, CTV science and technology specialist, is joining us now. And Dan, so how is it that sequencing the DNA of something in the ocean could potentially be linked to medicine and agriculture well above the oceans, the depths of the ocean?
Yeah, it feels like a impossibility that you would send a sample or a sampler down to the bottom of the sea where you're so deep that there's no light, it's the twilight zone, it's dark. You take a sample, you find some DNA, and lo and behold, it's a present for medicine, and it works well. But what you're really doing is surveying the diversity of life. And although we think, we look around here on the surface at the diversity that we have around us on land, it is nothing compared to the diversity in the ocean. That's where life started, and that's where most of life's experiments are playing out. And so there's way more weird proteins, weird DNA sequences that work for something, but that we have no experience with here on land. And so by sampling all those weird structures, if you have a way to go through the list, you can find ideas and for drugs that would never have occurred to us here on land.
We're going to get to that list in a moment because it's a big one. But first of all, researchers were particularly interested in species that live in what's referred to as the ocean's twilight zone, which, you know, in very layman's terms, is a dark, harsh environment. Why did the life that exists so deep stand out?
Well, if you want to learn something that we haven't seen before, you go and look where life exists in extremes, in places where it seems like everything we understand couldn't possibly work. If you took a human and put them down there, they would die instantly. In fact, if you took anything from land and put it down at those depths, it would die instantly. But life has been bubbling away there much longer than life has ever been on land. And so you have all these different creatures. And what's really interesting is as they sampled the DNA, they're finding things they didn't expect to find. One of the most prolific sequences of DNA or pieces of DNA tends to be fungi, like mushrooms. Not mushrooms themselves, but relatives of mushrooms, fungi. And I mean, I don't think of fungi when I think of the ocean, but that seems to be a dominant sequence. When you look at all the DNA sequences, you see a bunch of fungal DNA down there. And listen, penicillin's a fungus, right?
Yeah.
So it came from a fungus. So there's lots of potential for medical applications from the things we're finding deep down below.
Okay, let's talk about what you call the list, because it's actually a catalog with more than 300 million unique marine microbial genes. That's a lot of data to sift through. How are they going to comb through all of it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, back in the day when you were looking to make a list of what lives on land, people went out with guns, they killed a bunch of birds or whatever, and then they made a list of all the birds they found. When you're sampling the bottom of the ocean with modern techniques, it's very different. It's more like, look at all the data down here. Look at all the DNA sequences. We don't even know which animals they came from, but let's take it all up and let's make a big list of it. And that list would be prohibitively long if it weren't for modern techniques. But we have ways of looking through big lists like that now, and the big data analyses, some of the same techniques that have been used on, your cell phone data, for example. Those big data techniques can sift through those kinds of sequences to look for new things, or look for things that are similar to what we've seen before, but unique. And one of the great things about life right now is artificial intelligence, which actually speeds that up. You can give a data set like that to AI, and AI can come back and say, holy smokes, look at this. You need to look at this protein because this might work for something you haven't ever tried before.
Aside from the fascinating link, Dan, that you've shown us, these pictures from the ocean's depths are amazing. They look like something from a monster. Well, that looks like a person, but some of them look like things from a monster's film. This is great. Dan, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.